So the question is, does the Qur'an predict or prophesize the end of the state of Israel? So it's a very interesting question. And as we start, please note, prophecies are complex matters. The Qur'an says, وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَاتٍ, verses which are complex, which require delving deep, unpacking, analyzing, synthesizing. And Allah Rabbul Izzah says the true meaning of the prophecies is only known to Allah Rabbul Izzah. And then makes an exception or includes in it وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, and those who have dived deeply and advancedly in knowledge, who have the technical capabilities to unpack, to analyze, to synthesize the prophecy, and then they draw their conclusion. And when they draw their conclusions, even then they're not sure if this is 100% what will happen. Allah Rabbul Izzah knows best. So with regards to the question that you have asked and the prophecy or the verses associated with it, what I will do is I will unpack the verses with you. And then you can draw your own conclusions at the end of it, inshallah ta'ala. So the verses which most scholars associate with this matter is the verses of Surah Al-Isra, also known as Surah Bani Israel, in which Allah Rabbul Izzah says, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. The first thing to note, and you must keep this in mind throughout this discussion, is that the Qur'an was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and by extension to the believers. So in this verse, Allah Rabbul Izzah is telling the Prophet ﷺ about another nation, and this is the children of Israel. And the verse starts with وَقَضَيْنَا. And this word قَضَيْنَا is used 10 different ways in the Qur'an, like to 10 different ends, 10 different meanings. One of its meanings is to decree. And decree is different types. So there is decree as for taklif. So as Allah Rabbul Izzah says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So this qada is amrun taklifi, like you have to do. But in the verse that we are discussing, this is qadari, meaning that Allah Rabbul Izzah has decreed this as a matter of destiny, that this is what will happen. إِلَى Bani Israel, to the children of Israel, fil kitab. So we decreed to the children of Israel in the book. The book here, the scholars say it could mean the Torah, as in it is in their scriptures. So Allah Rabbul Izzah is informing the Prophet ﷺ that we informed them, or we decreed this matter to them and informed them in their book. Or we decreed this matter to the children of Israel in the book in which the maqadir are written, the destinies are written, the future is written. And that is one of the books, and that is Kitab, which is with Allah Rabbul Izzah above the heavens. So irrespective of where it is written لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ, that twice you will rain mischief on earth. وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا, and you will reach mighty heights. So when it comes together, that you will rain mischief, as in mischief will happen, associated with ulu, like as in associated with strength and with arrogance and with height and with might. These two things together, this is a different mischief than the ordinary mischief. Like the more ordinary vice and evil that the ordinary man commits is not associated with ulu. But when it is associated together, it denotes, it can be interpreted to mean that twice you will be given reign and authority on earth. And in that reign, evil, vice and mischief will spread. And then Allah Rabbul Izzah continues, not describing how they will reach there and what will happen and all of that. He goes straight to فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا. When the end of the first rain comes, like Allah doesn't talk about when the rain, just go straight, that when the end comes, this is how it will end, the first rain. فإذا جاء, and وعد, the murad is النهاية والزوال, the end and the downfall of the first reign or the first kingdom or the first authority. When that happens, بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار. We will send against you mighty servants of ours who are strong and staunch, and they will not only be victorious on the battlefield, but the Quran says they will traverse and go through your dwellings seeking you out. So it will be a major defeat. And notice, for the brothers who are into this and the students of knowledge, this is not ibadana. So this is not tashrifi. This is not to denote that these are special servants of ours, righteous or believers. Instead of ibadana, that would denote special or faithful or righteous, Allah Rabbul Izzah uses the nakira, ibadan lana. So they are our servants, and all heaven and earth is the servants of Allah Rabbul Izzah, willing or unwillingly. But their only characterization is that they're mighty, war-hardened, and severe, or staunch and harsh. So when the end of the first reign comes, they will be defeated, and it will not be an ordinary defeat, but it will go through the civilian areas and through their dwellings, and they will be ransacked like that, if you like, for a use of a better word. And historically, when you look, during the reign of Dawood alayhi salam, or King David, a mighty civilization of the children of Israel came about. And then his son Sulaiman alayhi salam, or we say Solomon, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him, because mighty messenger of God, or King Solomon as they refer to it in English, he inherited the kingdom, and vast, mighty, majestic, righteous, godly, God-fearing civilization had ensued, and obviously God's favor is upon them. But Solomon was a mighty ruler. And as soon as he died, there was a huge vacuum, power vacuum, and very hard to fill the shoes of Sulaiman. So the nation deteriorated, infighting started to happen, two different groups were created, and evil and vice and sin spread. So God Almighty, as per the verse, sent other civilizations against them. So the Babylonians came, and the Persians came, and the Romans came, and when the Babylonians came, as per the verse, almost word for word, they went in and won the war on battlefield, then went into their dwellings and sought them out and tied them up, and even burnt the temple of Solomon, and took them all as slaves to Babylon. And for some 50 years they were not even allowed to go back towards their country, that the state that they had built. And then Allah Rabbul Izzah says, bear with me, this is a bit technical. Then Allah Rabbul Izzah says, وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. This was a promise now fulfilled. So the Quran came to the Prophet ﷺ some 14.5 centuries ago. So at that time, the Prophet is informed that this first reign has already passed. That promise, that decree is already fulfilled. And then Allah Rabbul Izzah continues. Next verse, listen to this. Then Allah Rabbul Izzah says, notice that the Quran is for the Muslims, revealed to the Prophet, by extension for the believers. So the khitab here, the speech here, is to the Muslims. Then Allah Rabbul Izzah says, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then we gave you victory over them, referring to the Muslims, that we gave you victory over them, meaning over the ones that defeated the children of Israel. So this is the Romans and the Persians, the Babylonians, and then the Persians, and then the Romans that came and defeated the children of Israel. The children of Israel were never able to recover from that. They never came and defeated the Romans, they never defeated the Persians, they never defeated the Babylonians. But their defeat of these vast empires of the Romans and Persians was written at the hands of the Muslims. So the Quran says to the Prophet ﷺ, at this stage, there's been no war with the Romans, no war with the Persians, but Allah prophesies, this is the miracles of the Quran, that you will become victorious, we will give you aid, you will rush against the ones that defeated the children of Israel, so in reference to the Romans and the Persians. So Islam conquered Rome and Islam conquered Persia. And then Allah Rabbul Izzah says, وَأَمْدَدْنَاكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا. And we will give you wealth and children and make you the most populous of nations. And for those of the brothers and Talabul Ilm or scholars, Allah bless you all, Ya Rab, who argue that this is in reference to the children of Israel. The children of Israel never became akthara nafira. They never became the most populous of nations. Even today, their numbers are very small compared to all other nations. And the prophecy in this way, amwal, so oil fields are yours. Most of the money of the world is under, the land of the Muslims, whether resources or, hidden or discovered. And Banoon, children, and Alhamdulillah, even today, Muslim families outnumber non-Muslim families by a fair bit. Normally, Muslims like to have larger families. They consider it, nicer, better. They're that way inclined. And it fulfills the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah bless you and your families, Ya Rab. And lastly, akthara nafira. Today we are 2 billion and more in population. So Allah Rabbul Izzah told us, you will reach the greatest population. At the time, where the verses are revealed, they're just a few thousand in Mecca, in Medina and in the peninsula. Then Allah Rabbul Izzah gives a beautiful advice. So He says, "In ahsantum, ahsantum li anfusikum." When you are given wealth and children and population becomes huge, if you do good, when authority falls to you, when you have defeated Rome and Persia, if you do good, you will do good for yourselves. As in, you do good, history will remember you for good. The people will be happy from you for being good. Heavens and Allah Rabbul Izzah will be pleased with you for good. So if you do good, it will be for you. وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ. And if during your reign and during your tenure and your authority, if you do wrong, فَلَهَا, then there will be its consequences. And then Allah Rabbul Izzah moves, listen carefully, straight, because He promised them 2 kingdoms. The first one He talked about, then He told us what will happen to us, and then He goes straight to the end of the second reign. And the miracle of the Quran, think about it, dear ones. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no mention of the children of Israel coming back together, a state forming, all of this. But the Quran says that 2 reigns will come. So the first one is there, and another one will come. So when it came, when the state of Israel, was created, it was a fulfillment. And once it became strong and had authority, it was a fulfillment without them knowing of the Quranic verses that 2 reigns. The first, and the Quran uses the word وَعَدُ أُولَاهُمَا وَوَعَدُ الْآخِرِ. It doesn't use the word وَعَدُ الثَّانِي وَعَدُ الْأُولَى وَوَعَدُ الثَّانِي. Like we have جَمَادُ الْأُولَى, جَمَادُ الثَّانِي. The Quran doesn't use the first one and the second one. It says first one and the last one. And Allah Rabbul Izzah is merciful, Jalla Subhanah. So there will be a first reign and a last reign. So we are in the last reign. This is the only time after the time of King Solomon and the deterioration and the evil and vice that happened after his reign. This is the only time where children of Israel have authority or reign or a state. So the Quran then goes straight to the signs of the end. It doesn't talk about how it will form and all of this. It goes straight. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعَدُ الْآخِرَةِ. وَعَد أي نهاية والزوال. When the end of the second reign comes. When the downfall and the end of the second reign comes. So just as a point, these are prophecies, verses that predict or prophesies what will happen into the future. And we are having an academic, technical discussion of verses that are in the Qur'an. These are not calls to action, nor is there any anti-Semitic notion associated with this, in case there's some silly person out there who wishes to make more of this than it is actually intended. So an academic discussion of prophecy, and Allah Rabbul Izzah guide us to the truth, Ya Rab. So the verse says, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعَدُ الْآخِرِ, when the end of the second reign comes. And also nations come and go. A few years ago there was the USSR, big bloc on the planet. America and all the nations were cautious of it. But now the maps have changed and there's no USSR on it. Before that was the Ottoman Empire. So empires, states, countries change, come and go, and all of that. So this is just a normal nature of the way life is. So the Quran talks about the end of the second reign, and it gives these signs as the signs to watch for, which will indicate the end of the second reign. Listen carefully. So it says, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعَدُ الْآخِرِ لِيَسُوءُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. So of the signs of the end of the second reign is that they would insult or wrong or hurt or embarrass your faces, as in the face of the Muslims. So when the humiliation of the Muslims, who are the local populations in Palestine, when that starts and that takes root, this is one of the signs to watch for the demise and the end of the second reign of the children of Israel. That's the first one. The second sign, وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And they will enter the masjid, and the verse references Masjid Al-Aqsa. They will enter the masjid like they entered it the first time. Here's a beautiful little point to note. So generally, our Jewish cousins do not go into where the temple was, or where the masjid is, or even where the Wailing Wall is. Not in the numbers that you would expect. Some of them go, but the great majority do not. And the question is why? Because religiously, they're in a state of ceremonial impurity. So their belief is that if anyone has touched someone dead, they're in a state of ceremonial impurity. Or if you touch someone that has touched someone who is dead, they fall into a state of ceremonial impurity, religious impurity. They can't go to what they believe as the temple. So therefore, they need to be cleansed. They need to go through a cleaning process. And the cleaning process, according to them, is that red cow, the red heifer promised in the Bible, must be slaughtered, and with its ashes they will be cleansed from this impurity, and then they can enter the temple or the mosque. Now they have been seeking this red heifer for years, trying to find it so that they could have the ceremonial cleansing, and then they could enter the temple, or as the Quran says, the masjid. And eventually, only now, they have found it. So I'm anticipating that the plan is that when it is found, an animal without fault and flaw, and a one that has never worn collar, and a one that has never mated or had children, all the criteria that they have is met, then what will happen, I envisage this, again it might not be accurate, I envisage this, that there will be a massive ceremony in which our Jewish cousins from around the world will flock to Baytul Maqdis for this cleansing process, and they will enter it in multitudes as they entered it in the time of Solomon and in the times of the prophets before. So the verse says, the second sign is وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. They will enter the masjid, the temple, as they entered it the first time, like in their masses and in their multitude. So that will be the second prophecy, or the second part, or the second sign of the demise of the second reign coming true. And the third one, وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. And they will demolish, undo, bring to the ground everything that has been built up above the ground. You see glimpses of this. So now there are multi-story buildings in Palestine and in Gaza, and a rocket hits down the bottom and the whole building collapses. Exactly as the prophecy said, they will bring to the ground, destroy whatever you have raised above the ground. There's another possible understanding of the verse, as they will bring to the ground everything that has been built for the time or the duration of their reign, meaning that there'll be a lot of destruction and downfall. And subhanallah, just with regards to to support the evidence of the second one, that they will enter the masjid, towards the end of the surah, Allah Rabbul Izzah says, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعَدُ الْآخِرِ جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا. When the last rain comes, or the end of the last rain comes, we will gather them from around the planet. And now in Israel, they already gathered, like they come from Europe and America and all around the world. The children of Israel, or their remnants, come in. But I think there will be a monumental one, a great surge when they try to sacrifice this red heifer. And then it will again meet the next verse, that جِئْنَا بِكُمْ لَفِيفًا, we will gather you from all over the place. So this is the prophecy that the scholars refer to with regards to the first and second reign of the children of Israel. And I pray this has answered your question. My apologies for taking too long. Assalamu alaikum.